Welcome back, friends and listeners, to your favorite true crime podcast, Truth, Lies, and Alibis, by two 911 dispatchers.
Episode 6,
Loopholes and Double Jeopardy.
This week, Brittany tells me about the 1985 murder of Kathryn Eastburn and her 2 young daughters, and how the man that committed the crime nearly got away with it.
Hi, Jess. How are you this week?
I'm good. I'm cold, but...
Tired of the snow? I'm tired of the snow.
I'm so over the snow. I'm so over. Never in my life, growing up where it's hot constantly, summer's always been my least favorite season. And I've never thought that I would say the words that I'm looking forward to and I'm ready for summer, but boy, am I ready for summer.
Yeah.
I'm tired of living in a snow globe.
Me too. So I thought we could start off this episode a little bit different and just maybe talk about something interesting that happened this week or something funny. I have something funny to share with you.
Okay, I don't think I have anything that'll make any sense to anybody because of what I do for my job is very specific. So
what I was going to tell you, remember I said I got stuck in this rabbit hole before we started taping?
Yeah.
Have you seen on TikTok?
There's a very good chance that my answer is going to be no.
Have you seen Merlin?
No.
No? Okay.
Oh, God. No,
Merlin,
but he's cute.
the cat. He has a very grumpy face. I literally sat there for 30 minutes going through his TikTok. And then I showed Ryan the TikTok and he goes, what is he, like a spokesperson or something? Because he goes to conventions. And I was like, what kind of conventions is he going to? There is a cat con, Jessica. Did you know?
Oh, yes. I'm aware.
I did not know there was a cat con.
Yeah.
And Ryan said, it's probably full of a bunch of old ladies with cats. And I said, well, I'm taking Jessica sometime. We're going to go to Cat Con. And he was like, okay. But anyway, everybody should go check out Merlin's TikTok because it's pretty amazing. And he has the grumpiest face. He's like the new grumpy cat. Anyway, I just thought maybe we could start out with some chit chat because I couldn't wait to tell you about Merlin and everybody else. They should go look at him. It'll make you happy.
The only time I open TikTok is when you or Kylie, the two people who only ever send me TikToks, send me a TikTok. I open it up, I watch it, and then I close down the app. So you're always like, hey, have you heard about this? And I'm like, no. How about this? No. No, I haven't heard of that either.
My TikTok is full of cows and cats and murder and really pretty women. So that's it. Anyway, we can jump right into murder now. Today, I'm going to tell you about the murder of Kathryn Eastburn and her 2 daughters. Buckle up, because this is a crazy... I feel like I always pick crazy stories because I want you to be like, wow, that's crazy, every time. So, here we go. On May 7th, 1985, Army Staff Sergeant Timothy Hennis responded to a classified ad for a dog that was needing to be rehomed. The ad had been placed by Kathryn Eastburn. Her husband was attending an Air Force captain in training school in Alabama at the time, and Kathryn was trying to get everything ready for their transfer to Germany. Part of that transfer was rehoming the dog, Dixie. There were strict rules that prevented the family from bringing Dixie with them, which I think is messed up.
That's sad.
You already have to give up so much. Why can't you just take Dixie? You know, it's sad. Tim Hennis was looking for a dog to grow up with his newborn daughter, Christina, and he took Dixie home with him, excited to introduce her to Christina and his wife, Angela. 5 days later, on May 12th, the Eastburns' neighbors had noticed that papers were piling up on the Eastburns' doorsteps, and the car was parked in the driveway. The couple talked about it and realized that they had not seen the family in at least 3 days, so the husband was gone, but Kathryn was there with her 3 kids, and they had not seen them in a couple days. So Sergeant Bob Seefeld, I think that's how you say it, decided to go over to check on the family, and when he got over to the house, he knocked on the door, and no one answered, but he could hear a baby crying inside, so he was concerned. He then returned home and called the Eastburns' babysitter, Julie, who rushed over. When Julie arrived, Bob was waiting outside, and the two peeked inside the home like they went around looking in the windows, where they eventually could see baby Jana standing alone in her crib, crying with her arms outstretched. The two decided to wait for police before they entered the house.
Smart.
Officer Tillman arrived on scene and made entry into the house to get Jana out to safety. She was severely dehydrated, but otherwise okay. She also was in a very dirty diaper, so she hadn't been cared for in a while. He noted that a horrible smell was coming from the house and told Bob to stand by while he checked the residence. That's where he found the deceased bodies of Kathryn as well as her 3-year-old daughter Erin, and that's when he called for backup. The officers searched the rest of the house and found 5-year-old Kathryn Eastburn deceased as well. Wow. Kathryn Eastburn had been raped before her murder. She was stabbed 15 times, and semen as well as other DNA samples were taken from her body. Kara had been stabbed multiple times in the chest, and Erin had been bludgeoned to death.
So the 5-year-old was stabbed and the 3-year-old was bludgeoned to death?
Yes.
Jeez.
It's really sad. While investigators began their investigation, a man named Patrick Cohn came forward to give information on a man he had seen leaving the family's home on the night of the murder. This is a quote about the incident that he made. I was walking home from my girlfriend's house about 3:30 a.m. As I was walking, I saw a white Chevette, so a Chevy Chevette, parked on the road. Then I saw this white dude walking down the lady's driveway. I passed right by him. He said, "I'm getting an early start this morning," or something like that. Then I watched him get into his white Chevette and drive off. He then gave a description of the man, approximately 6'4", blonde hair, black toboggan. That's a hat, right?
Yes, it is.
With a black members-only jacket, white shirt, and blue jeans. Investigators also discovered that Kathryn's ATM card had been stolen and used twice. On May 10th and May 11th, there had been 2 transactions for a total of $300.
This is 85, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
A witness supplied them with a description that matched the description Patrick Cohn had given. So the subject who had used the ATM card matched the subject seen leaving the crime scene. This description would be broadcast on TV and radio services with a sketch. So they had Mr. Cohn sit down with a sketch artist and they broadcast it. They also requested that whoever had taken Dixie call the police. The sketch looked remarkably similar to Tim Hennis. On May 15th, Tim Hennis drove to the police department with his wife and daughter to speak to investigators. The couple arrived in his white Chevette. Tim Hennis answered all questions willingly and didn't request a lawyer, even though DNA had a long way to go still, because as we've talked about before...
85, yeah.
Yeah, until the 90s, it wasn't really a thing. The investigators asked for hair, blood, and semen samples. He said the night of the murders, he had driven his wife and daughter to his in-laws, and after getting fuel, he returned home. A photo lineup was put together, and Cohn would identify Hennis as the man he had seen in the white vehicle the night of the murders. His alibi would soon crack, too, when an ex-girlfriend came forward to say that he had made a visit to her home looking to have sex with her that same night, and she had turned him down. He had also taken his black members-only jacket to the dry cleaner on May 10th, and the neighbors told investigators that he saw him burning objects in a barrel on the morning of May 11th.
Suspicious.
So, 1, he picks up Dixie a couple days before the crime occurs. 2, he lies and says that he went and got fuel and then went home, but he was at an ex-girlfriend's house trying to hook up with her. 3, he has the members-only jacket, and his white vehicle, which I'm not going to attempt to say again, matches the same description, and he matches.
And he's picked out of a photo lineup. Yeah.
Let me show you sketch, and let me show you him. Well, I'll just show you this side by side.
Oh, yeah. That's the sketch?
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, it's pretty similar.
Look at that mustache. It matches perfectly.
Well, and even the, like, contours and everything.
His nose.
Match his face. Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting because it looks like, you know how sometimes they have sketches and you're like, that looks nothing like the person. And then other times there's sketches that look like that. That guy had a good description. He was paying attention. Everybody pay attention to your surroundings so that you can help make a sketch like that one day if it comes down to it. Hopefully not, but you never know. Okay, so because of all of this stuff, Hennis was arrested and charged with the murder of Kathryn, Kara, and Aaron Eastburn. He was offered a plea deal for 2 counts of second-degree murder, but turned it down, and the case went to trial in the summer of 1986. During the trial, the prosecutors alleged that Hennis had gone to Kathryn's house after his ex-girlfriend had turned him down, looking for sex. And when Kathryn turned him down as well, he became angry and raped and murdered her. He then murdered the older 2 girls to prevent any eyewitnesses from being able to testify against him, which I'm like, they're so young.
And that's also a lot of rage to just quote unquote get rid of a witness.
That's like a ton of rage because first, I don't know what order they were murdered in, right? But that takes a lot of like strength and energy to do that. Which, why are you so angry? You know?
Well, if we had the answers to that.
I know. It's just questions that go through my mind when I watch stuff. I'm like, geez, what? Like,
also, like, why is sex so important?
Yeah.
Like, apparently he couldn't get it from his wife, so he was like, I'll try my ex-girlfriend. Couldn't get it from the ex-girlfriend. Went to this person he met once a few days prior to get a dog and couldn't get it there, so he was like, no one will have sex with me. I need to kill. Dude, use your hand. Like, get over it.
You have 2 girlfriends, one on this side and one on this side. I think, too, like, we're never, like you said, if we had the answers to everything, it would be different. But we're never going to know the way people like that think because we just don't think that way, right?
Yeah.
It's also kind of weird to me that he got so angry that he decided to kill Kathryn and rape her, but didn't rape his ex-girlfriend. He was like, oh, she turned me down. I'm going to go to this girl, and this is the girl I'm going to kill. And I'm going to kill her daughters, too. Her young daughters.
It's like the accumulation of it all. Like, he may have been angry, but then he was like, I don't know, his pride. It all comes down to stupid pride.
Well, and maybe he, as we've talked about before, maybe part of the turn on for him is making someone have sex with him because, you know, some people are disgusting humans. I don't understand it. That's all. They had Cohn and the ATM witness testify and showed the jury the sketch created that resembled Hinnis so closely. After 10 hours of deliberation, the jury found Hinnis guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of first-degree rape. On July 8th, he was sentenced to death and he would be transferred to Central Prison in Raleigh, North Carolina death row. While in prison, he began to receive anonymous letters from someone calling themselves Mr. X, claiming they had actually killed the family, supposedly. In 1988, 2 years after the original trial, Hinnis's appeal was granted, so he filed an appeal right away, as most people do. His defense lawyer had argued that the numerous graphic crime scene photos and videos had influenced the jury negatively against his client, and I'm like, well, duh.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and also, you were literally there to figure out if he's guilty or not of the crime, so of course they're going to show crime scene. Like, I don't understand how you were granted the appeal on these terms, but okay. Also, maybe the jury just didn't like him because he was a total asshole. Like, obviously he was an asshole. Maybe they got asshole vibes from him. And they were like, yeah, he probably did it. You know? Like, he looks exactly like the sketch. He took Dixie. It's all a little, like Jessica said so many times. What do you always say? There are
There's
coincidences.
no such things as coincidences.
Yep. Based on this, a retrial is granted. Apparently, this was the first time a prisoner on death row in North Carolina had ever been granted a new trial. In April 1989, the retrial began. The defense challenged eyewitness testimony and evidence. They also had 2 new defense witnesses, one who said she had seen a long-haired man with a van near the Eastburn house the night of the murder, and another male subject who actually had been running in the neighborhood that night and also looked similar to the sketch. To which I say, where were these witnesses before?
And it's funny because he, like, his car and somebody matching his description was seen in the driveway of this residence. But it's like, oh no, there was also this weird guy down the street. Yeah, but you were on the property.
There was this weird guy with long hair in a molester van down the street. Could have been him, even though this weird, creepy guy was walking out of the house mumbling to himself. Yeah. They alleged that none of the DNA evidence was a match to their client and submitted his members-only jacket, which he had cleaned, to be tested for bloodstains. And they said that there was no evidence of bloodstains. But I'm like, but he had it dry cleaned. Here's my thought is, he had to have gotten in the house pretty easily. Like, so maybe he came to the door and he was like, oh, I just came to talk about Dixie, or, used the dog in some way to get back into the house. And that's why nobody heard a commotion. Nobody saw anything. So maybe he came in, he took his jacket off, then he committed these crimes. But there wasn't a struggle or any kind of commotion that alerted the neighbors. So the retrial lasted 3 weeks, and after 2 days of deliberation, Hinnis was acquitted of all charges.
Wow.
Following his acquittal, he would go on to re-enlist in the Army and was promoted to staff sergeant. He received several awards and accolades for his service, and in 1998, he moved with his daughter, son, and wife to Fort Lewis, Washington, and in 2004, he retired. So, let's recap the timeline. 1985 is when the murders happened. 1986 is the first trial, and when he's found guilty. 1988, he is granted an appeal, and in April of 1989, that's when that retrial begins, and he is acquitted of all charges, so he reenlists from 1989, 1990 until 1998, when he moved to Washington, and in 2004 he retires. So he gets to go back into the Army, live his life, have another kid with his wife, who stood by him throughout all of this, which is just, I'm sorry, what? Like, it's kind of like that story. Remember, I keep bringing this story up because it just stuck with me. Remember that story where she marries her best friend's murderer? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it reminded me of. So, in 1988, Gary Eastburn had relocated his daughter, Jana, to a U.S. Air Force base north of London. He then met and married an English nurse in 1991, and he would continue to work overseas for several years after retiring before returning to the U.S. and settling in Washington. They both settled in Washington, but didn't, as far as I know, they said in one of the shows I watched about it, the Eastburn family had no idea he was in Washington. Who knows if Tim Hennis knew that they were in Washington. In May of 2005, after attending a detective seminar that discussed the Eastburn case, Captain Larry Trotter of the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office decided to have DNA evidence retested because DNA obviously had come a long way, and they had kept it because, I mean, technically it was solved, but still unsolved because they didn't have anyone in jail for it. It was
closed but not solved.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. DNA had come a long way from the 1980s, and he hoped that this would help bring closure to the Eastburn family. In 2006, the DNA was found to be a match to the prime suspect, Tim Hennis.
Oh my gosh. Oh no. I'm so shocked.
Prosecutors then had to call Mr. Eastburn to tell him about the match and tell them we can't retry him because of double jeopardy laws.
Mm-hmm. Which is so frustrating because it's the fail in the justice systems that got that guilty man out, right? Mm-hmm. He was in jail.
Well, yeah, and it's like he can have a retrial, but you can't, like, he was found guilty, but he can have as many retrials as he wants, but you can't retry him. I don't know.
It's a interesting kind of like gray area.
Like, I get it on some level, but then on the another level, I'm like, it's...
In situations like this, it's frustrating because you want that justice. But in other situations, it's good, right? Because you want that safety net.
Yeah. Like, obviously, you don't want an innocent man to be put to death if you can stop that. But there was so much circumstantial evidence just pointing to him. And then the DNA matches. Like, I don't know. I feel like maybe they should relook into some of the double jeopardy laws. Like, if the DNA matches, you know, I just have a hard time with it. That's all. This is why I picked this case, because it sucks. Like, normally when you talk about someone getting acquitted, it's like a good thing. You know, it's the people who, like we said, have been found guilty. Yeah. And then they can get out. But then there's people... Also, the whole thing is flawed, right? Let's be real, because there's people who are sitting in prison who lots of people think are not guilty, who won't get a retrial. But then there's people like him who get a retrial, get acquitted, and they're actually guilty.
Well, and what's frustrating, too, is I feel like given enough time, you can build a case to defend anyone. Mm-hmm. You can spin a story, 6 ways from the original, given enough time to make it plausible, that probable doubt, right? Yeah, that we've talked about before. So that's what's frustrating is like, sure, yeah, he got that retrial like a year or 2 into his sentence. Yeah, take your time. Figure out how you can spin it. That one guy that saw a van parked down the street. Yeah, okay, that sucks.
It really sucks, and it sucks for that family because they knew, but they couldn't get any closure. But due to double jeopardy laws, Tim Hennis, like I said, could not be retried. However, prosecutors found that under the United States Constitution's dual sovereignty doctrine, he could be retried in federal court, and the Uniform Code of Military Justice meant that he could be retried in a military court, which is weird to me. We can't retry.
I'm not even...
Yeah, it's too much.
I'm not even going to try to understand it.
I was like, okay, whatever you say. Okay.
Good on all you people out there that want to study law, because it's just all loopholes.
As much as I am into true crime, as much as I like dispatching, as much as I, might like arguing in court, there's no way I could sit there and learn all those things, I mean, nursing school is hard enough.
Yeah.
So, He was recalled September 26, 2006, and charged with the murders based on the new DNA evidence. So basically, they made him go back into service so they could arrest him. He appealed this decision many times, and each time it was denied. He kept trying to appeal and appeal and appeal, and they denied him. Hennis's court-martial at Fort Bragg began March 17, 2010, and lasted 3 weeks. During the trial, the prosecutors focused heavily on the DNA evidence and the eyewitness testimony that had previously been supplied. Defense would suggest that DNA evidence had been contaminated and that Hennis had consensual sex with Kathryn before her murder. And I'm like, okay, well, which one is it?
Yeah, exactly. Was it tampered or was it consensual? Also, just miraculously past the bad guy coming through the door when he left that killed her? Like, come on.
Yeah, that guy in the van down the street, or the guy who was running. Take your pick, Jessica. I mean their DNA was nowhere to be found.
But it was tampered with, though. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was there and it was his, but it was tampered with, but also, like, no, shut up. Like, you're just grabbing at straws.
I'm sorry, Judge. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, but I did, and except it was consensual.
I did.
Yeah, he's a horrible human. Any way you slice it, he's an awful human being. The jury would find Hennis guilty on April 3rd, 2010, and they recommended a death sentence. He was also demoted, stripped of all pay and allowances, and then dishonorably discharged from the Army. Which I'm like, cool, bro, you've already paid him this whole time and given him awards, and okay, yeah. Cool story. He is incarcerated at the U.S. Disciplinary Barracks at Fort Leavenworth in Kansas, and since his second conviction, he has appealed multiple times, so I'm going to tell you about it. In January 2011, defense requested a new trial because the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation lab worker named Brenda Dew, who testified in the first trial, was under investigation for writing misleading reports, but they were denied. That is something I could see. Like, the previous appeal, I'm like, no, sir, that's not how it works. Like, these are pictures of the things that you did that do pertain, but I mean, I could see, because remember in that Michael Peterson case when the blood analysis, the blood drop, what was he called? My brain is numb.
Blood splatter
Thank you.
Or whatever.
The blood splatter expert. Thank you, Jessica. Look at you. You do love true crime.
I remembered something.
You.
I don't know about that. I just remembered a thing.
But remember, he had falsified documents and he really had never gone to school, and then he was granted a retrial or whatever based on that. But they didn't give him a retrial for this, which is, like, I don't think he deserved a retrial to begin with, but whatever. I just am questioning the thought on, we'll grant for the crime scene photos, but not for this.
Different people made that decision, right? Because now he's under federal holding with the military, so.
Yeah. In September of 2011, defense claimed the U.S. Army didn't have jurisdiction to try him for the murders, arguing that the military's jurisdiction to retry him had expired since he had retired honorably before being called back to be charged with the murders, meaning any crimes committed in his first term of service was out of their jurisdiction. They denied that as well. Yeah, that's a lot of words. January 2012, the acting
That's also
commander,
just, like, so frustrating.
But
it's
like,
he was tried for it the first time and found guilty and then released on it. And then it was discovered that, he actually did do it. So instead, you know what? Here's my rule. I'm going to make a new law. Jessica's law. Instead of retrying them again, they just go back to jail on the original
verdict.
Yeah. That they don't get the DNA that determines that, yep, that's you did it, then that means, that mistrial, we'll forget about it. That's on us. You can go back to jail.
Where's the loophole?
We already found you guilty.
Yes. Where's the loophole for when DNA comes back that matches? You know, there should be a loophole for that. There's loopholes for everything else. Like, where's the loophole for, if DNA does come back and you actually are guilty, you're going to go to jail because that's where you belong if you're a murderer and a rapist and a horrible human being.
Maybe in the future when we get to, like, Minority Report level status of being able to predict crime before it happens.
January 2012, the acting commander of Fort Bragg approved his conviction and the death penalty and was like, nah, bitch, basically. May 2012, United States Supreme Court rejected his appeal, and September 2013, another appeal was filed about jurisdiction and then denied, and also in October 2013 and November 2013. So he just was like, no, I don't want to die. I'm going to appeal this over and over and over again. And they were like, but your DNA was there.
But you raped and killed a woman and her 2 small children.
Yes. In February 2014, he filed yet another appeal, and the appeals would continue all the way to January of 2021, all of which have been denied at this time. Which I'm like, how many fucking appeals can... Like, I thought you could only appeal so many times. Do you get to just appeal every appeal? You're like, I'm appealing this decision. And they're like, no, you don't get to appeal. Well, I'm appealing that decision.
Well, how about this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like...
Which, again, like, it's good to have those checks and balances because you want to be able to have that in place if somebody deserves the appeals.
Yep.
But this particular gentleman did not.
He definitely does not. So as of this time, he's still on death row, and I guess there's a CNN crime documentary series, Death Row Stories, that was released about him in 2014, and it covers the trials of Hennis and the Eastburn family murders. I also watched like a Forensic Files episode about it, and then I used Wikipedia as well as some other sources online, which we'll link. He's sitting on death row still. His wife is still like, oh, he didn't do it, which, I mean, come on now, friend. Come on now. And his daughter still supports him. It's got to be hard, though, right?
It's got to be. Yeah, I was just
talked
thinking
about
that.
this before a little bit. Like, it's got to be hard to admit that the person you love is, in fact, not the person you thought they were and could commit such like a horrific crime. The murder and rape of a woman is one thing, but to kill her 2 young children as well, and then just leave that baby for dead, because really he did. He may not have killed her, but he knew that if nobody came to take care of her, that baby was gonna die, and he had a newborn
and
baby.
the only reason he didn't, like, realistically, right, he killed a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old because they would be witnesses, but they're 3 and they're 5. Like, the only reason that baby was left alive is because, like,
it was contained.
It can't be a witness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
she couldn't talk, and she was contained in a little crib. She couldn't run to get help, and maybe that's another reason. Like, he thought, oh, these girls can run to get help from someone, and I need time to get away from here. But no matter what the thought was, he's crazy. They're children. They're tiny little babies. That's so sad and awful and horrible. You have a newborn baby at home. Also, I should have done some more digging, but I wonder too. So remember in our last episode where we talked about badge bunnies and all those things, when we were talking about how he was like, well, I couldn't get sex from my wife, so I went and got it elsewhere. Maybe she wasn't cleared yet medically because she just had a baby, and
she wasn't interested in it again yet.
Maybe she also thought her husband was a douchebag, which probably not, because she stood by him the whole time. But you're allowed to say no to your partner if you don't want to have sex with them. And they should not be going off to have sex with other people just because you're not in the mood to have sex with them. Like you said, I think it was his pride more than it was being intimate with his partner.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know this for a fact, but maybe he had some kind of like sex addiction, which is also not an excuse at all. But like, there was obviously some weird shit going on with that dude mentally, as there is with everyone we talk about on this podcast, right?
I mean, yeah. Quote unquote, normal people don't kill people. So
exercise releases endorphins. Endorphins make you happy.
Happy people don't murder their husbands.
Speaking of law school.
What, like it's hard?
Yeah, the whole story is just really sad. It's really sad that she was just trying to find her dog a home, and then this asshole somehow came along to find her.
Gosh, and her husband too, right? To be not even can be in the same place as her, and then to find out that his wife and 2 oldest children were killed. Gosh.
Yeah, and then to have to raise that baby by yourself. Like, I can't even imagine.
And then to find out that the person that did that to your family was released from jail a few years later.
Well, and also, like, I lived on a military base when I was little for a little while because my mom was married to someone in the army, and you kind of have this sense that you're safe there. Like, you can trust everybody. Me, knowing what I know now, knows 100% you can trust no one. But... But, like, you feel safe. Like, my mom would let me, which I would never let my children do this, even if I lived on a military base. But she would let me, like, ride my scooter all over the base. Like, we would go to the commissary. We would go to the PX. We would go to the pool, like, on my little scooter with my best friend. I was, like, 8. I don't know, somewhere in that age range. And I was just, all over the base with her because we were safe, even
Right.
though there are predators on military bases too, obviously.
People are people. Doesn't matter what they do.
Yeah. You have this like false, and back then, because, they're always like, oh, we didn't even lock our doors, those kind of things back in the old days when people were just, blissfully naive, like, oh, the world's just this happy place with rainbows and butterflies. I'm safe. Like, just what a shocker. And to find out that somebody who was in the army did that, I'm sure was also kind of like mind-blowing for him. I don't know.
Yeah.
He probably had a lot of things to work through. And the episode I watched about it, the daughter's on there and she's older, obviously. It's when she's grown. And she was like terrified to find out that they lived relatively close to each other and they didn't know.
I mean, that part of that is the whole like ignorance is bliss thing, that like they didn't know, so they could go day to day and not have to worry about it. But then to find out later is definitely scary. But at least while he was in the area, they didn't know, sort of deal,
Yeah, it's very sad. Also, another thing I was thinking, in the world we live in, as we know, I feel like it's more dangerous too because there's apps and stuff where you go to meet people to just buy random things, or you give people your address, or I don't know, just stop and think maybe next time, like also online dating is scary. The whole world we live in is a scary place, Jessica. That's what I'm learning from everything. Maybe that's why my anxiety is so bad. Maybe I should not be as into true crime as I am, but like...
Too late for that. Damage has been done.
Literally, I was thinking about it and I was like, I'm sure eventually we'll cover some kind of murder that has to do with online dating, but when I was a single mom, I like gave online dating a try for like 5 seconds, but then I was like, I don't know who these people are, and it's the same as back then when you placed an ad in the newspaper, you don't know who's gonna respond. It's scary.
I mean, it's the same as like meeting somebody at a bar, right? Like you don't actually know who that person is.
I mean, yes, but there's more opportunity to meet people online. And I was saying is some people are really dumb and they meet like a ton of people online. Like they open themselves up. And I don't know, I'm the weird person who can't talk to people at a bar. Like the only reason I ended up with Ryan was because I had to go on a ride along. Like you think if he came into the dispatch and tried, like I would have been like, leave me alone. I'm typing here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there's not more opportunity. Maybe I just feel like there's more opportunity online than at a bar because I'm an awkward person when
I feel like the opportunity is still the same because you can meet people online and you agree to meet them and you are meeting somebody in a bar.
Yeah, you're right.
It's comparable.
Basically, don't murder people. Also, DNA is DNA is DNA. So...
Also, be happy because happy people don't kill people.
I want to watch that movie now.
Thank you for listening. Additional information for each case can be found on our website, truthliesandalibis.buzzsprout.com. New episodes will be uploaded every Monday. Find us on Facebook and Instagram at Truth Lies and Alibis.